Imagine this. You wake up, check your phone. Markets are green. Again. Your salary didn't change. Your productivity didn't suddenly double. Nothing in your real life improved overnight. Yet money, stocks, assets, prices, keeps drifting upward, quietly, persistently, almost politely. No boom, no celebration, just up. And that should bother you, because if money keeps rising when nothing gets better, then something else must be doing the lifting. Something structural, something mechanical, something most people never see. This isn't about innovation, it's not about hard work, and it's definitely not about confidence. It's about how modern money is forced to move, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. For most of history, rising money meant rising reality. More factories, more trade, more workers producing more things. Growth had weight. It made noise. You could point to it. But somewhere in the last decade or so, the connection loosened. Wages flattened, productivity slowed, inequality widened. And yet, asset prices kept climbing. Stocks hit records during layoffs. Housing boomed while birth rates collapsed. Markets shrugged at crises that would have been unthinkable before. This isn't optimism. It's not mass delusion. It's a system behaving exactly as designed. To understand why money keeps moving upward, we have to start with something deeply uncomfortable. Modern money doesn't exist to reflect the economy anymore. It exists to stabilize the system, and stability has a price. Let's strip this down to basics. In the old story, money was passive. It followed growth. In the new story, money is active. It creates outcomes. And the single most important rule of this system is simple. Money must keep moving, not because it helps people, but because stopping is dangerous. Here's the part no one likes to say out loud. The global financial system is built on debt that can never fully be paid back. Governments, corporations, households. The total number is so large it stops feeling real. And debt has a problem. It demands growth. Interest doesn't care whether productivity rises. It doesn't care whether wages improve. It doesn't care whether demographics collapse. It just compounds. So the system faces a permanent tension. Either the economy grows fast enough to service the debt, or money must be made easier, cheaper, and more abundant to prevent collapse. Guess which option wins? This is where the upward drift begins. Central banks aren't trying to make you rich, they're trying to prevent chain reactions. When growth slows, lowering rates isn't optional, it's defensive. Lower rates mean borrowing doesn't explode. Lower rates mean governments can roll debt forward. Lower rates mean markets don't seize up. But here's the side effect. When the cost of money falls, the value of assets rises, not because they're better, but because money has nowhere else to go. Think of it like water. If you lower the ground, water spreads outward. Cheap money floods into whatever can absorb it. Stocks, real estate, private equity. Anything with a claim on future cash flows. And once prices rise, something strange happens. They become fragile. Because falling asset prices aren't just losses anymore. They're threats. Pensions rely on them. Banks use them as collateral. Governments depend on the tax base they create. A market correction used to be painful. Now it's existential. So every downturn gets treated like an emergency. And emergencies justify intervention. This is why money keeps drifting upward, even when reality stalls. The system can tolerate inequality. It can tolerate stagnation. It can tolerate frustration. What it cannot tolerate is falling asset values across the board. That's the red line. Let's talk about inflation, because this is where most explanations get lazy. Inflation isn't just prices going up. It's money losing its anchor. And modern inflation isn't driven by people buying too much stuff. It's driven by balance sheets. When money is created to prevent collapse, it doesn't land evenly. It enters through financial channels first: banks, markets, assets. By the time it reaches wages or everyday prices, the distortion is already locked in. This is why inflation feels unfair, because it is. Now zoom out. Look at the last 20 years. Every crisis gets bigger. Every rescue gets faster. Every intervention becomes permanent. Emergency measures don't end, they normalize. Low rates become the baseline. Asset support becomes expected. Volatility becomes unacceptable. Markets stop pricing risk honestly because risk is always backstopped, and upward drift becomes the default. Not because the future is bright, but because the present is fragile, because stopping would reveal how much of the system depends on motion alone. So the real question isn't whether this continues, it's how long it can, and what happens when upward drift stops being enough. Because at some point, prices stop rising quietly. They either accelerate or they crack. And when that moment comes, the story we've been telling ourselves about growth, stability, and progress will be forced to change. The only question is, who gets to write the next version, and who pays for it?